July is Disability Pride Month. This conversation is with Esi Hardy of Celebrating Disability, who explores how the physical environment can have a huge impact on helping disabled people be fully involved in the workplace and wider society.
So Esi, what does the word inclusion mean to you?
I think that's a good question. I think inclusion for me is about feeling safe and feeling as though I don't have to think about everything that's about to happen. So if I'm in a space where I don't, because usually when I go into space, I'm always like, okay, cool. Where's the loo? Where's the door? How do I get through the door? Where do I sit at the table? Who do I need to talk to? Where do I get my straw? How do I get a drink? What do I need to do next? What am I going to be expected to do? And it's a constant, like, all the time I'm thinking about the next thing whilst having a conversation or maintaining eye contact or doing whatever I'm there to do in the first place. So inclusion for me, and I would say would feel, because I can't pinpoint a time apart from when I'm with my friends, and even then I'd say my physically disabled friends, I can't really pinpoint many times where I don't have to consider all of those things.
Taking it into a content space as well, how have you experienced or had peers kind of feeling like they couldn't engage with content they wanted to or not engage? Kind of tell us more about that, because I know you work a lot with...
Yeah, so actually, I had a really good kind of wake-up call a little while ago. So I, as part of my work at Celebrating Disability, well, a big part of the work, we deliver training sessions. So we deliver solution-focused training sessions. So what we do towards the end of the training sessions is we ask people to consider what goals they're going to take, what they're going to do as their call to action, what solutions are they going to implement. And we ask them to kind of make 3 pledges. And I was talking to one of my fairly new trainers who has a neurodivergent condition. And she said, I think we should give them more time for these pledges. And I said, well, no, because if they can't think of it in 2 minutes, then they're obviously not listening in the session. And then I stopped and I was like, oh my God, that's so ableist. That is, that's coming from my ability to process information on the spot, but not everybody can do that. So I think that there's always lessons to learn, even when you think that you're being inclusive. That's why there's no such thing as true inclusion or full inclusion or full accessibility, because both things mean different to everyone. So it's not about always obviously it's about striving to get it right, but it's not about perfectionism, but it's about listening to yourself and doing everything you can to always be improving on what you're doing.
So from Filming Fighters, we had a great experience trying to find studios that were accessible and that were inclusive. Tell us about your work and what you do going into businesses to make sure that everyone can get to work and get to places like film studios, offices. Tell us more about that.
So what we do generally is we look at the inclusive workplace culture rather than the accessibility. But I think what comes into that is helping people to understand that you have to think about inclusion holistically. So you can't just think about, okay, what happens once they're in the workplace, because it's never a vacuum. So people don't appear in a vacuum and then disappear in the same vacuum again. People have to have arrived at the place some way. They need to have known that you are the right company some way and somehow. And that's all about how you communicate and how you understand your external environment and also your internal environment. And by that, I mean a business, for example, Ben&Jack Studios, can't necessarily control a Maidenhead Town Centre. But what you can do is be aware of Maidenhead Town Centre and what is available and what is not available in terms of accessibility, in terms of public transport, in terms of building space, and then communicate that to the people who are coming to visit you. And also, when you're getting ready to release a film, supporting your audience to know that this film is going to be available with closed captions, for example, with a BSL interpreter, for example, or whatever you're doing to make it accessible so that people don't think, oh, there's no point in me tuning in. So years ago, I created a game and it was called, well, it didn't have a good name. It was like the social model of disability game. And it was teams that were against each other, and they had a point for every card. And each card would either be a question or it would be a scenario. So, So when I was young, I might be about to go off on a tangent. So when I was young,
Keep going.
yeah. So when I was young, Take That were my favorite band in the world, and that's why I love Robbie Williams. Actually, no, it's not. But anyway, I love Robbie Williams now. But Take That were my favorite band. So I had the Take That board game. And there were cards in the board game. So it's like you went around like you do on Ludo, and you landed on a square and you had to pick up a card. Some of the cards were like, sing your favorite Take That song. And some of the cards would be like a scenario. So it would be like, you waited outside for hours to meet Howard Donald and he just walked past you without giving you a second glance. Go back 2 steps. So it was absolutely devastating. So I took the concept of that game and I implemented it in my game. So it would be like, an example would be you heard a really great advert on TV for a pair of shoes you've always wanted, and the advert say, call this number on the bottom of the screen, but you're blind and you can't read the number, therefore go back 2 points. And so it was an awareness, or it is an awareness game to get people thinking, but also to get them acknowledging the barriers that are out there and how easy it would be to solve that barrier by just reading the number out loud, and things like that.
In terms of maybe easy wins of the topic, for someone, again, very selfishly thinking of our own film studio, kind of what would you advise people to think about, say, if we wanted to come in and do this podcast somewhere else, what are kind of the key pillars you need to have in place to make the studio accessible for people? I appreciate we're talking a very select group here, but kind of for the vast majority of people to come in and kind of feel comfortable and get the film and content that they want.
Absolutely. So I mean, what you're talking about is proactive anticipatory adjustments. So what anticipatory adjustments are those?
Sounds way more fancy than what I was thinking. I love that too. Yeah.
So they are the adjustments that you implement because you assume disabled people are coming. So for example, if Tesco's didn't put in a lift and they said, well, we didn't know wheelchair users were coming, that wouldn't stand up in court for them, because 24% of the UK population is disabled. So chances are somebody is going to need to use that lift, right, for accessibility purposes. You could do the same with your studios. So you could put in this anticipatory adjustment because you assume that people need it. So always have the main part on the ground floor level and also the communal area on the ground floor level. So for example, if you have a green room that's upstairs, it will mean that the disabled person can access your studio, but they won't be included in the culture of what you're trying to develop in your studio. Also, providing or publishing information on what is available is really important. So, for example, if you don't have the facilities to have an accessible loo, provide that information before people arrive so that they are armed with that knowledge to do something about it. And you can go one step further by telling people where the nearest public accessible loo is, for example. It might be worth, if you're putting on food, thinking about the fact that some people can manage finger food, some people need to use cutlery, but can still have cold food. So providing kind of a range, having tables so that people can lean on them.
I was hoping you come to tables after the long conversation we had. Tell us all about tables, because that's the thing I've learned most about today.
Well, I can't tell you all about tables, but I think what we were talking about is, say, for example, the fact that for me, it's much easier to be able to lean on a table to eat something, because if I try to put it on my knee, it would probably fall off. So having a table that I could get under in my wheelchair, where I don't crash my knees, where my foot plates have enough room so they don't bash into the middle, so I can get properly under the table. But then also, so that's the accessibility I need, but then the experience I want is to still feel part of the community that you've created. So I don't want to go off in the corner and eat my food on my own, because that's where the table is. It would be nice if it was like a center point so that everybody is eating at the table. So there doesn't have to be a sit-down meal, but it might be like the table is kind of the go-to place to get things, and it doesn't feel awkward. It's not in the way, but it's also not out of the way kind of thing as well. So that the disabled person or disabled people can eat, but everybody else feels that they can talk to everybody, but not exclude a disabled person at the same time. And I also mentioned that it's not always possible, but round tables are much nicer because it means that you don't have to strain your neck to see the next person, and that it can be a communal buffet or lunch or whatever.
I think to finish off, we talked about kind of in the world of inclusive content. We had this conversation before. We're going to share each a content creator we enjoy. Who is your recommendation to go and check out to learn from?
So I said to you before we started filming, Jack, that I mean, there's loads, but I don't know content creators per se. So I don't want to make a recommendation because I might do, and you might be like, oh my God, that person's awful. Who is this Esi Hardy? So, I mean, I listen to watch a YouTube influencer who doesn't really have anything to do with disability inclusion, but has a lot to do with true crime. So she's a true crime influencer, and she's called Eleanor Neal. And she's really cool. She tells these true crime stories. She's quite naive. She's like probably mid-20s. And it's quite funny watching her because she's quite naive. And she's like, I can't believe they did that. It's just like, wait 10 years, love.
I'm getting very honest and real and very authentic. That's what's coming through from that. I love that. I'm going to check her out. That sounds fantastic.
Yeah, good.
My recommendation for you, there's a woman called Chrissy Marshall, who is an American content creator that has a cochlear implant. Okay. And she gets invited to the Oscars every year or that kind of stuff. And she's there signing with all the actors. So she's someone I really enjoy watching. So that's so we can share and that kind of one.
Yeah, I'll look up her. Yeah.
But fantastic. Thank you so much for chatting.
Thank you very much.